So hello and welcome to another Reddit Twilight Struggle League match. My name's Jesse Marshall, here for the winning agenda. We've got a game against Phil. Yes, indeed, 60 minutes. And good luck to you also. So we're playing as the US, and what have we got here? We've got a 4-up in test ban. We've got Truman Doctrine for something a bit more defensive. We've got NASA that we're going to have to probably give them this turn. We've got a free Cambridge 5. We've got NORAD, which we could consider headlining, but I actually don't mind headline duck and cover to protect Italy, which means that we can go 3 in Italy. We've got Suez, but we don't have de Gaulle, so I'm still reluctant to play into France. And I think it's probably less important anyway. We could still get socialist governments tier actually, so I actually still think we go 4-4-2. Great. Yes. Yeah, the fact that socialist governments is still so bad for us there means I think we still have to, but I think I do want to protect Italy here. We don't have other ways to get back into the Middle East or North Asia is kind of the problem, but we can also... we do get a coup back, so I think I'm not too worried about it. There we go. So that worked out okay, because the duck and cover also protected our Italy a little from socialist governments, and it means that we're not going to get jammed quite so much because we've got Truman Doctrine and we've got enough ops to back it up. So I think the duck and cover was the right defensive play. NORAD would have been a more aggressive play, but I think given our relatively low ops hand, this gives our opponent a little bit more pause for thought and means that we are more likely to hold on to countries that we care about. They could put 3 into West Germany here. No, okay. Going for Asia and West Germany. So we'll spread a little first here. I think we'll go... undecided about whether we want to fill up France at this point. I think we just want to go into France. Into Malaysia perhaps, or we could go 2 into Pakistan. We don't have the war, and they could China card coup us back, which does mean they have to give us the China card, so it's not too bad. But I'm not super keen to go into Pakistan for that reason, because we're DEFCON's at 4, so we can get couped out and we can't coup back. So I think we'll go to Malaysia just to defray the Asia scoring for this AR and to present them a few choices. We could also have couped Afghanistan there, but I don't think that's great. It also means we haven't spread from Iran, which is not ideal. So perhaps the right move was actually to be a little more aggressive into Pakistan there, but it just doesn't feel great with them closing off Afghanistan. The fact that they didn't coup with a 4-up kind of makes me suspicious that maybe they have a relatively low ops hand, like the fact that their leading play was Comic-Con there. So it will be interesting to see what their follow-up is like. EEU. Going to France and Pakistan. Okay, so suggest they've probably got Asia scoring. Go ahead and clear it out a little bit here. So I think then we'll probably just take countries actually to try and defray the Asia scoring. So we can go something like, we don't want to give them the coup in Indonesia necessarily. So we'll go back to that. We could go Cambridge 5, place one into the Philippines. And or we could just coup them in Pakistan. That's also an option. It's less efficient, and we do have more opportunities to spread. Yeah, I think it's better to use the opportunities to spread up front. Okay, so we don't want them to fill up France, so I think we'll put one in France. And yeah, I like one in the Philippines. Just to require them to commit more ops, I think, to Asia is better. We could have put one into Iraq that action round. That might have been correct. But I think holding back and keeping our bigger guns for later is kind of good as well. I probably want to send this Suez Crisis to space, I think, this turn, given the way things have panned out. And I want to hold on to Truman just to try and tempt them to commit more ops somewhere here. Okay, so taking South Korea, I assume. Yeah, which is not great for us. Okay, so almost certainly an Asia scoring. Kind of tempted to fight them for South Korea, to be honest. I mean, they do have the China card. We have to keep that in mind. We could also degrade DEFCON just so we can definitely get Thailand. And to get some mill-ops. So what are our options here? If we don't coup Pakistan this action round, then we're going down to effectively a 2-ops coup at best, which is not ideal. And we don't want DEFCON to go back up to 5 because we don't want Italy to get couped next turn. I don't think we need to commit more ops to Europe this turn. We'll hold Suez Crisis for AR6 in case of blockade. So the question is just whether we want to coup Pakistan with NORAD or whether we want to fight them in South Korea instead. I think since we have to coup this turn, we should probably do it now. And we'll give it a go. Okay, so that worked out all right. So that accomplishes 2 objectives for us. It gets us an influence into North Asia, which admittedly they can get rid of with IP war, particularly if they coup Iran first, but it also means that we degrade DEFCON. And I guess the 3rd objective it accomplishes is it removes a battleground country from their count in Asia, which is handy as well. If they do have the Asia scoring card this turn, which I kind of feel like they may well, because they've committed all of their ops to Asia so far, other than these couple that they followed up the socialist governments with in Europe. So if we want to hold the Truman Doctrine to next turn, we're going to have to play the NASA. So in some ways, I'm hoping that they actually commit more ops to one of these European countries so we can get a bit of value off the Truman Doctrine. Otherwise, we might look to AR6, kick them out of one of their East European battlegrounds with Truman Doctrine in the headline phase, but we'll see how we go. Since they did give us EU this turn. That does leave us a little more vulnerable though in France and East and West Germany, so I'm not super keen on that. Okay. Giving us the China card on turn 1, I do not mind, and I'm pretty happy to just take Thailand now. So Asia's now just 1 VP for them, despite them spending the China card and a lot of ops this turn. Although it is going to be hard for us to keep them out in the long term. I think if we get decol, which is a big if, then we could be okay. So I think we'll just take back Iran. with the NASA and just let them have Egypt for now. It's unfortunate, it's free ups for them, but it was probably going to have to happen. Which does limit our AR6 to being space race, which is not ideal. But I think given the cards they had this turn, we've done okay. You know, we drew the China card out of them. They may have the Asia scoring card. I mean, all the indications were that they do have it, but perhaps they were just trying to make some aggressive inroads into Asia. Okay, they just had the IP war. Interesting. Yeah, it was a pretty nice hand for them, knowing that they had a defectors free headline, but I'm very grateful that we headlined as Duck and Cover to save Italy. So no luck on the space race. So now 2 scoring cards. We've got Decol, we don't have Vietnam Revolts. So if they headline Vietnam Revolts, let's see country counts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 1, 2, 3, 4. It would still be 5, 5. So I think we can safely headline this Asia scoring and get it out of the way. We're going to have to space Decol. Hold Decol, space Korean War, I think is where we're going to go, especially since we've got the China card, so we've got some added flexibility with holding cards, and we'll try and get France and West Germany in hand so that we can get this Europe scoring into advantageous position throughout the rest of the turn. So unfortunate, our space race failed, and then they had the CNS, but what can you do? We do have to be a little careful of Middle East scoring now that they're in a reasonable position to assert domination, particularly if we get kicked out of Iran here. Okay, so 2-op coup on Panama was successful. Very unfortunate, because that was probably something we were going to look to leverage a little more this turn, but that's okay. So I think we'll go 1, 2, 3, and then I want to put one more into either Angola, Algeria, or Southeast Asia to block them off from Thailand here, or into South Korea. Or into Iraq is the other option to give us more access in the Middle East. I think probably South Korea and Iraq are slightly higher priorities. They're still one country where we can always parry into Laos if we need to, if they move into Burma. And between South Korea and Iraq, I think they are more likely to fight us in the Middle East this turn, given that they could well have the scoring card. And I think we're still in a position where we may be able to, particularly now that we've got Decol and we can hold it, defray the country count in Asia with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, Vietnam's unlikely. We'd have to take Taiwan or Burma to be able to hold off domination there. It's a tough one. We don't really have the ops to take Saudi Arabia anyway, but I kind of don't mind giving them the China card back to take South Korea. So, particularly if we can successfully avoid the Korean War. I think we don't put one in South Korea just because we can trigger Korean War first, so we'll go to Iraq. Welcome Exomus to the stream. Sorry that you missed the start. Glad that you've made it along. I've just been recording some Twilight Struggle introductory videos as well after your queries, so hopefully you will find those of interest. But the start, turn 1 was actually very interesting. And our opponent headlined Socialist Governments, but we headlined Duck and Cover to reduce DEFCON to 4 so that they couldn't coup us in Italy, which saved Italy. Hang on. What? What's going on here? Can't we just coup them in Panama and win the game? Well, there we go, GG. I don't quite understand. Look at their hand again, but couldn't they just space 5-year plan? Or did we reduce their hand size? What's going on here? One, two, three, four, five. That was weird. Anyway, that's a win. I guess that was a short video today. Exomus, thanks for coming down for all of one action round. Oh, that was an accident. I didn't realize. Oh. Thanks for the game. And yeah, I guess he just forgot that influence in Panama. So there you go, everyone. Beware of CIA created when you're the USSR player. That's a little lesson for you there, Exomus, for your introduction to Twilight Struggle. But that's certainly a good thing to be aware of. CIA created. That's a good way to losing the game in the early war. Thanks for watching the stream, and sorry that we didn't get a bit more of a game in, but I guess in some ways that's good, because now I think we might be 4-2 in the league, maybe 5-2. Anyway, I think we have a pretty good record now, so all is good. So an unfortunate loss. I mean, we can just go back. I think we've just had a couple of new viewers join the stream, so we'll just do a quick recap of what happened. So we're turn 2. Our opponent couped us in Panama on their action round 1 with independent reds, and they got an influence, which they forgot about. And then they played CIA created later in the turn, revealing 5-year plan, which is a possible DEFCON issue with CIA created, but they had a space race spot free and enough action rounds, as well as some, pretty hard-hitting USSR cards, including Blockade, but and D-Style, more importantly. But yes, unfortunately for our opponent, they crucially forgot about that Panama influence. Sort of worked out well. In terms of turn 1 as well, what a few viewers have joined recently, what you would have missed was actually a really interesting turn 1 where our opponent pushed really hard with, they started off with socialist governments. We headline duck and cover to protect Europe. So they started pushing really hard into Asia with these cards. So they took Pakistan, they took India, they pressured South Korea. We just kind of kept country count even in case they had the scoring card, which they didn't end up having. But we were able to hold on to Iran. We couped in Pakistan just to get DEFCON down a bit, and luckily rolled reasonably well to get an influence there, which also helped protect Iran. And even though they had some forays into Europe, we had Truman Doctrine, so we weren't under too much pressure. And then, yeah, this unfortunate turn 2 end to the game. So thanks for watching, and we'll be back next time. Had Indo-War being played, they had it in hand, so they played it on their final action round. I think they were hoping that we'd commit a few more resources to contesting Pakistan and India. It's often a good thing to do with the bait and switch if you have the Indo-Pakistani war, which they did. They were sort of tempting us to coup Pakistan with a 4-up card. We did end up couping Pakistan with a 3-up card, but we only ended up getting 1 influence in there, so it was kind of pretty low value for them to war it, because they're 50-50 to get our 1 influence, but then we could just take it with a 3-up card. So in the end, they ended up playing the war for ops instead, but it did mean that when they were playing in there, they felt more secure because they knew we weren't going to war them out. But yeah, that's the game, and I'll be, as I said, Exomus, thanks for your request for some Twilight Struggle introductory content. I'll be recording a bit more of that and hopefully putting that up. I'm going to go through all the cards and a few of my thoughts, just kind of updating and riffing off theories, reflections on the cards, as well as a bit of an overview of the basics of the game. So yes, that's it. And I think we'll probably be back next weekend with another game stream from the league, if we can tie up a time with one of our opponents. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.